I'll take up the last section of the story Shroud by Munshi Premchand. As we know in the earlier sections that Budhiya is dead and the father and the son, Ghisu and Madhav, they come to the market to buy a shroud for her from the money that they have gathered from the villagers. But then instead of buying the shroud, they take the decision of having good food and wine, and how they are justifying the entire you know thing, the what they have done. Both then start eating puris with all the majesty of a tiger in the jungle pursuing his prey. They have no fear of being called to account nor any concern about disgrace. They had passed through these stages of weaknesses long ago. Gisu said in a philosophical manner, if my soul is being pleased, then won't she receive religious merit? So, even though Gisu as a subaltern could resist the forces of exploitation, surprisingly and tragically, Budhiya, the woman in the family who had, you know, taken Gisu and Madhav to a position of bargaining, even if for a day, had been left without a voice. She suffered silently her fate and her death, yet she provided the locus on which the subaltern and the master, the exploited and the exploiter, worked out their relations with each other. Gisu and Madhav exploited Budhiya to earn the extra buck even though it cost her life. We may say that economic deprivation had dehumanized both to an extent where human relations were meaningless to them. So, because of poverty, both Gisu and Madhav, they have become inhuman to the extent that the human relations become meaningless to them. So this the conversation between Madhav and Gisu reflects their inhumanity. Madhav bowed his head in pious confirmation. Certainly, she will certainly receive it. Bhagwan, you are the knower of hearts. Take her to heaven. We are both giving her our heartfelt blessing. The feast I have had today haven't had its equal in my whole life. After a moment, a doubt arose in Madhav's heart. He said, how about it? We will go there too, somebody, won't we? To someday, won't we? Now, doubt comes into Madhav's mind that one day they will also die and go to heaven. And then, Gisu gave no answer to this childish question. He looked reproachfully at Madhav. He did not want the thought of heavenly matters to interfere with this bliss. So he is having good time. Gisu is having good time, so called good time, and she doesn't want to mar the happiness of that moment, and so he doesn't bother. Gisu doesn't bother to reply what Madhav says. When she asks us there why we didn't give her a shout, what will you say? So this is the question by Madhav, that when they meet her, what will they reply? Oh, shut up. She will. Then again, Madhav says she will certainly ask, how do you know that she won't get a shout? Do you consider me such a donkey? I have lived in this world for 60 years, and have I just been loitering around? She will get a shout, and a very good one, a much better than we would have given. So, Gisu says to Madhav that she will get a shout, but then Madhav is not convinced. Says, who will give it? You have gobbled up the rupees. It is me, she will ask. I am the one who put the sindoor in the parting of her hair. So Madhav says that she'll ask me, you have spent the money on wine and dinner, and because I am her husband, she is going to ask me when we meet after death. Then Gisu grew irritated. I tell you, she will get a shout. Why don't you believe me? Who will give the money? Why don't you tell me? The same people will give it who gave it to this time, but they won't put the rupees into our hands. And if somehow we get our hands on them, we'll sit here and drink again just like this, and they will give the shroud a third time. So see the carelessness, inhuman attitude of Gisu. At the same time, his belief in social customs, where he knows that the body will not be allowed to burn without the shroud. So he is convinced that if the body is without the shroud, the villagers will again either give them the money to buy a shroud, or they will themselves get a shroud for her, and so she will definitely get a shroud. This is the belief of Gisu, because he knows social customs very well. As the darkness deepened and the stars glittered more sharply, the tumult in the wine house also increased. One person sang, another babbled, another embraced his companion, another pressed a glass to his friend's lips. Joy was in the atmosphere there, intoxication was in the air. How many people became an ass with a glass? So, see the contrast between the occasion when the wife is going to be cremated and the atmosphere that you find in the wine shop, where people are have enjoying the wine, and they are really forgetting about what is going in the outside world. They came here only to taste the pleasure of self forgetfulness. So it's a kind the wine becomes a kind of escape for them, where they just want to forget about the world and about themselves. More than liquor, the air here elevated their spirit, so they were now in high spirits. The disaster of life seized them and dragged them here, and for a while they forgot whether they were alive or dead or half alive. So, they are the people, generally, he says, are Premchand writes, are, burdened with the worries of life, and wine, is giving them a sort of relief for a while from the worries and burdens of life. They just want to forget them. And these two, father and son, were still sipping with relish. Everyone's eyes had settled on them. How fortunate they were, they had a whole bottle between them. So, this was also a reason for envy, because other people in the wine shop could have only a little wine, where the father and the son were having a full bottle of wine. After he had finished eating, Madhav picked up the leaf plate of leftover puris and gave it to a beggar who was standing there looking at them with hungry eyes. And for the first time in his life, he felt the pride and delight and thrill of giving. Earlier, Madhav is a very poor person. He has never had the delight of giving, the pleasure of giving, and so now he is in a position to give the leftover to the beggar, and so he is feeling lot of pleasure and delight in it. Gisu said, "Take it, eat your fill, and give her your blessings. She whose earnings these are has died, but your blessings will certainly reach her. Bless her with every hair on your body. These are the payment for very hard labor." Madhav again looked toward the sky and said, "She will go to heaven. She will become the queen of heaven." So the poor lady, she doesn't have any voice. She's already dead, and these two people are now justifying everything. Even in her death, she managed to fulfill their dearest wish. If she won't go to heaven, who will? These rich fat slobs whose fleece the poor and then to wash away their sins, take a dip in the Ganga river, or offer its holy water in the temples. So, the privileged has already justified exploitation to serve his self interest, be it the feudal master or the patriarchal father. This is the nature of power and the logic of exploitation. Buddhia was crushed under the threesome forces of feudalism, patriarchy, and poverty. The manipulation that Gisu worked to wrest whatever little from the ruling class was absent in the case of Buddhia. Gisu or Madhav could put up resistance, however manipulative, and survived. Buddhia gave her everything and was vanquished. This story, though exemplifies subaltern resistance, it nevertheless raises some more questions whose answers are absent in it. Whom do we identify as the real subaltern? Why is their relation not egalitarian? What will allow Buddhia to raise her voice against the exploitation she is subjected to? Which resistance is more urgent for a woman like Buddhia? Such questions need to be addressed to understand the multifariousness of subaltern exploitation and the complicity of peer groups and that racket. So, you know how Premchand has dealt with multiple aspects of the social reality. First, there is the exploitation by the uh, by the jamidas and the landlords, and then the poverty which these laborers suffer, and the extent to which this poverty makes them inhuman. See the inhumanity of Gisu and Madhav. It is their poverty which has made them so inhuman that the money that they have got for the shroud, they spend in buying wine and food, because for quite a long time they have not eaten to their full. So there are multiple issues in the story. Thank you.